This story is titled, My Fiancée's Mother Labeled Me a Temporary Supportive Wallet, Mocking My Worth Before My Wife's Divorce. Her derisive taunts about being nothing more than a financial resource backfired when I disappeared, leaving them desperately trying to reach my blocked number. Hey Reddit, my name is Marcus, and I'm 36 years old. It's 3 a.m., and I'm sitting in my truck outside what used to be my home, trying to make sense of everything that just happened. Never in my life did I think I'd find myself in this situation. It all started with a random notification on my phone. A simple email from our shared Amazon account about a returned package I never ordered. That innocent alert was the first domino that led me to discover my wife, Linda, had been hiding a secret credit card from me. In that moment, my whole world started falling apart right before my eyes. Let me give you some backstory. I've been married to Linda, 33F, for 8 years now. We met when I was just starting my landscaping business. Back then, I was living in a tiny apartment and driving a beat-up Ford pickup. Linda seemed perfect, sweet, supportive, and she genuinely seemed to love our simple life together. She never complained about our modest beginnings, and I thought we were building something real. Here's where things get complicated. Linda's family seemed okay at first glance. Her parents, Diana and Robert, lived in a modest house. Robert worked at the local garden center, while Diana was always between jobs. And when I say always, I mean literally always. Linda's brother Kevin, 37, lived in their basement, supposedly working on some revolutionary app that never materialized. Her sister Jessica, 31, worked part-time as a waitress while chasing her dreams of becoming an actress. They weren't exactly the perfect family, but I thought, hey, family is family, right? Boy, was I wrong. The problems started small. Diana would mention their broken washing machine, and Linda would give me those puppy dog eyes saying, baby, they can't afford a new one right now. Next thing I knew, I was buying them a fancy washer and dryer set because they were family. Then it was helping with their mortgage, just this once when Robert had knee surgery. That once somehow turned into every month for 2 years straight. Kevin needed a loan for his app development, $15,000 that I'll never see again. When Jessica's car broke down, I had to help her finance a new one because she needs it for auditions, Linda insisted. Every time I tried to discuss our budget and express concern about these recurring expenses, Linda would start crying, saying things like, they're my family, Marcus. We can't let them struggle when we're doing okay. She made me feel guilty for even questioning these financial decisions. But that Amazon notification changed everything. It led me to discover that Linda had opened not one, but 3 secret credit cards and had been taking cash advances to help her family, racking up almost $40,000 in debt. I found this by checking our credit report, which I should have done months ago. The worst part? She'd been telling her family that I was controlling, just because I wanted to know where our money was going. Last week, I finally had enough. I gathered everyone at their house and brought spreadsheets showing exactly how much they'd taken from me over the years. When I added everything up, it came to nearly $200,000. $200,000 that I had worked endless hours to earn, siphoned away by people who claimed to care about me. During this family meeting, Kevin just sat there smirking like this was all some big joke. Jessica rolled her eyes as if I was being overly dramatic about the situation. Diana started fake crying about how I was attacking them, while Robert just stared at his hands like a coward, unwilling to meet my eyes or acknowledge what they'd done. What hurt the most was Linda's reaction. She completely lost it and started screaming about how I was selfish. She had the audacity to accuse me of trying to turn her against her family when all I wanted was accountability for our money. Money that we should have been saving for our future together. That's when Diana showed her true colors. We never liked you anyway, she spat at me. You were just convenient, someone to help keep us comfortable. Then they all started laughing. Even Linda, my wife of 8 years, was laughing at me. It felt like getting stabbed in the chest, a pain so intense and unexpected that I could barely breathe. 2 days later, I got served with divorce papers. Linda was making claims of emotional abuse and financial control, painting me as some kind of monster who had manipulated and isolated her from her loving family. What a joke! I had spent years supporting all of them, only to be cast as the villain in their twisted narrative. Yesterday, they invited me to a family meeting, claiming we could discuss things civilly and work toward a resolution. When I walked into their house, I found them all celebrating with champagne, probably bought with my money. Victoria, Diana's friend from the bank, was there too. All of them were laughing, toasting to Freedom from the control freak. Diana looked me dead in the eyes and said, "You were never family. Just a walking ATM. Even the kids won't miss you. We don't even have kids yet. Thank God for that. But now I know why they'd been pressuring us about starting a family lately. They weren't excited about the prospect of becoming grandparents or aunts and uncles. They wanted to trap me completely, to ensure I'd be financially tied to them for the next 18 years at minimum. I didn't get angry. I didn't yell. I just smiled, raised the glass they'd given me, and said, "Thanks for showing me exactly who you all are." Then I called my friend Nathan, who happens to be a lawyer. You should have seen their faces when I mentioned his name. It was priceless. That moment when the smug confidence drained from their expressions as they realized I might not be the pushover they thought I was. They don't know it yet, but I've spent the last week documenting everything. Every loan, every transfer, every guilt trip, every manipulation. I've got 8 years of receipts, text messages, bank statements, all of it. They think they've won. They think they'll get half my business and keep bleeding me dry through alimony. They have no idea what's coming. I've even found more stuff since starting this process. I've checked for additional credit cards and accounts, and the rabbit hole goes deeper than I thought. Yeah, maybe love makes you blind, but I'm wide awake now, and I'm not going to let them take advantage of me anymore. First update after a few weeks. Thanks to everyone for the support. It's helped keep my head straight during this nightmare. I've moved out of our house and found a small apartment across town. Nothing fancy, just a one-bedroom with basic Target furniture, but it's mine. The best part? There's nobody here guilt-tripping me for money or making me feel like I'm never doing enough. My first night in the new place was rough. I sat on my new couch, scrolling through old photos, wondering how I missed so many red flags over the years. That's when something clicked in my mind. I remembered Linda asking to be an authorized user on my main credit card about 3 years ago. She said it was just for emergencies, and I trusted her completely at the time. I pulled up my online banking and started digging through old statements. What I found made my blood boil. Every time Diana had some crisis, car repairs, dental work, new appliances, Linda had been charging equal or larger amounts at places like Nordstrom and Sephora. These weren't emergencies. They were shopping sprees disguised as family crises. All while I worked 60-hour weeks to keep my landscaping business afloat. The next morning, I texted Nathan and met him for coffee at Dunkin'. I laid out everything. The credit card statements, the family emergencies, how they celebrated with my money right after serving me with divorce papers. Nathan stayed quiet through most of it, just kept taking notes on his phone. When I finished, he finally looked up and said, "Your in-laws really screwed up. They thought they were being clever, but they left a paper trail a mile wide. Here's what we discovered through our investigation. Kevin hasn't paid basement rent in 2 years. I've been unknowingly covering it through loans to my in-laws. Jessica's car that supposedly broke down 3 times? She actually traded it in each time for newer models, using my credit card for the down payments. Robert's back problem medical bills? Most of the charges were actually made at Best Buy and GameStop. And Victoria from the bank had been helping them time their money requests around my paycheck deposits, ensuring they'd catch me when the account was at its fullest. Yesterday, I found something big. I was cleaning our shared home office with Linda's cousin supervising, since I'm not supposed to be there when she's home, according to the temporary court order. Hidden in a drawer, I found a notebook in Diana's handwriting, a literal playbook of manipulation tactics they'd been using on me for years. It included gems like, emergency calls work best on Sundays when he's relaxed. Mention grandkids' future if he hesitates about money. Let Linda ask, he never says no to her. And family dinner =, new request opportunity. I took photos of every page before leaving. Here's what they don't know. The mortgage I've been helping with is now 3 months behind because I stopped payments when the divorce started. Kevin's truck that's in my name, I'm reporting it as unauthorized use next week. All those unpaid loans? I've got signed IOUs for most of them. The joint account that Linda drained? She missed the business account she's not listed on. Linda has filed for divorce claiming I was financially controlling. The irony would be hilarious if it wasn't so infuriating. Her lawyer sent demands yesterday. They want half my business, the house, and ongoing support for her and her parents since they're dependent on family income. When I showed these demands to Nathan, he actually laughed and said, "They really think you're just going to roll over. They have no idea what's coming." I'm not angry anymore, not even hurt. I'm just done being everyone's ATM. Nathan is drawing up the paperwork now. My in-laws think the gravy train is just changing tracks. They don't realize it's about to derail completely. I got a text from Victoria yesterday. Maybe we can work something out if you're reasonable about the divorce settlement. I didn't reply. I'm letting them think I'm defeated. Let them celebrate a little longer. They taught me an expensive lesson about family, and now I'm teaching them one about consequences. I have a feeling their next family dinner might not be so cheerful. I'm not worried about retaliation. They've spent years pretending to be victims while bleeding me dry. All I'm doing is stopping the bleeding and letting natural consequences happen. Everything I'm doing is completely legal. I'm just not being their safety net anymore. I've got copies of all documents in multiple secure locations, and I'm not responding to calls or messages. Everything goes through Nathan now. It's been 3 weeks since my last update, and things have changed massively. I've gotten tons of messages asking for updates, so here it is. Remember how I mentioned working with Nathan to document everything? Well, that groundwork has paid off in a big way. The day after the divorce papers got served, I had the bank freeze all our joint accounts and credit cards. Linda called me screaming that she couldn't buy groceries. I calmly reminded her about her teacher salary, something I hadn't mentioned before. She actually has a stable income, and suggested she ask her parents for help since they're so family-oriented. The silence on the other end of the line was priceless. Then I made my big move. I called in all the personal loans to my in-laws, everything documented with signed IOUs. Thank God for Nathan's advice years ago about getting everything in writing. The total came to $46,800, and I gave them 30 days to pay it back, as per the agreements they had signed. Robert showed up at my apartment the next day, red-faced and screaming about how I was destroying his family. I recorded the whole thing on my phone. Thanks again, Nathan, for that advice. He kept yelling about how I was never really family, just jealous of their close bond. I just smiled and said, "You're right, I was never family. I was just an ATM, and ATMs need to be paid back." His face when I said that, I wish you could have seen it. Here's the real kicker. I stopped paying their mortgages. I'd been covering both their house payment and Kevin's apartment rent. Kevin had been telling everyone he's between opportunities while spending his days playing video games and door-dashing groceries with my credit card. Reality is finally catching up with all of them. Diana tried pulling the guilt card next. She showed up at my work crying about how they'd lose their house. Kevin would be homeless, and how could I do this to them? I simply played her own voicemail back to her, the one she left after the divorce papers were served, where she bragged about planning this for months, how Linda would get half my savings, and how I was too stupid to see it coming. Her face went white as she realized I had receipts for everything. The community drama got intense after that. Victoria was spreading rumors saying I'm abusive and controlling. I forwarded her screenshots of all the unauthorized charges Diana had made over the years. Funny how the narrative changed when people saw proof of who was really controlling whom. Linda finally cracked last week. She showed up at my apartment at 2 a.m., crying about how her parents had manipulated her. She claimed they convinced her I was holding her back from some imaginary better life, and how they pressured her to file for divorce, saying, "He'll give you anything to keep you." She begged me to take her back, saying we could start fresh. I just laughed and showed her my phone, specifically group chat screenshots that Jessica had sent me. Turns out Jessica grew a conscience after seeing how the family treated me. The screenshots showed them planning everything, including detailed discussions about how to take me for everything in the divorce, with Linda's own messages about playing the victim. The look on her face when she saw her own words was worth every penny they'd taken from me. The fallout was exactly what you'd expect. The bank started foreclosure on their house last week. Kevin is frantically applying for jobs now that his apartment complex gave him notice. Turns out you actually need to pay rent. Who knew? Robert's truck got repossessed too, since I stopped making payments on that as well. Diana has been calling mutual friends, crying about how cruel I am, but nobody's buying it anymore. Linda's latest trick? She tried claiming in court that I was financially abusive by controlling all our accounts. Her lawyer dropped that argument quick when Nathan showed up with evidence. 5 years of bank statements showing her shopping sprees, regular transfers to her parents, plus those beautiful screenshots of them planning everything. The judge's face during that hearing was something I'll cherish forever. The best part? I didn't have to do anything illegal or complicated. I just stopped being their personal bank and let natural consequences happen. They had built their whole lifestyle on my money, and now they're learning what happens when the ATM closes. Karma has been beautiful to watch. Their house is being sold at auction. Kevin is actually working at a fast food place now, and Jessica has apologized and is trying to distance herself from the mess. Linda is living with her parents, watching their house of cards collapse around them. I won't lie. Sometimes I remember the good times and feel a twinge of something like regret. But then, I remember that champagne toast, their laughing faces as they celebrated taking advantage of me, and that twinge turns to satisfaction. My apartment might be smaller than our old house, but I sleep just fine knowing I finally stood up for myself. My bank account is looking pretty healthy now that I'm not supporting 6 extra adults. It's been 3 months since my last update. What a wild ride this has been. Remember how I said karma would come for them? Well, it did. Hit like a freight train, and I've had a front row seat to the whole show. Remember Robert's smug face when he toasted to getting rid of the controlling bastard, aka me? He's not smirking anymore. The garden center laid him off after 23 years of employment. Turns out drinking on lunch breaks eventually catches up with you. He could have found another job pretty easily in our area, but his pride wouldn't let him work beneath his station. I guess pride doesn't pay the bills, does it? Their house went into foreclosure last week. Nathan helped me document every penny they had squeezed out of me over the years, and when I stopped paying their bills, reality hit them like a sledgehammer. Diana tried guilt-tripping me through mutual friends, sending messages like, "How could you let your family end up on the street?" I blocked every number they called from. Not my circus, not my monkeys anymore. The real show started with Kevin. He finally realized he had to move out of the basement, where he'd been living rent-free for 6 years, playing video games and working on his mixtape that no one has ever heard. He showed up at my apartment screaming about how I was destroying the family. I just smiled and took video of the whole thing. Always document crazy, as Nathan taught me. When he wouldn't leave, I called the cops, and they escorted him away while he ranted about his upcoming record deal. Spoiler alert, there is no record deal. There. Then came the community fallout. Remember Victoria, Diana's gossip buddy from the bank? She was still spreading rumors about me financially abusing the family. Karma got her too. During a grocery store rant about what a monster I was, she let slip about the loans and credit cards Linda had taken out in my name. A mutual friend recorded everything and sent it to me. That recording became pretty useful in the divorce proceedings. Turns out the judge wasn't too impressed with bank employees discussing confidential financial information in the grocery store. But the biggest surprise was Linda's reaction when reality finally hit her. She came to my workplace 2 weeks ago, mascara running down her face, begging me to fix everything. She claimed she realized what her family had done to us and that she had chosen the wrong side. I just looked at her and said, "Remember that champagne toast? How's it taste now?" Her response? She started screaming in the parking lot about how I was heartless and destroying her family. I just kept recording on my phone. More documentation for the divorce. My coworkers were shocked, but now they understand why I've been so stressed the past few months. Last weekend was the cherry on top. They had to sell most of their stuff in a yard sale, and watching Diana trying to sell the designer bags and jewelry I had bought for Linda, which she had borrowed and never returned, was darkly satisfying. Even better, their neighbors now know the whole story. There's nothing like a small-town yard sale to air all the dirty laundry. Jessica tried playing both sides, calling me crying about how they were making her pay rent for the first time in her life, while simultaneously trash-talking me on Facebook. I just kept screenshots of everything. At this point, my divorce folder in Google Drive is better organized than their lives ever were. The family is basically imploding now. Kevin's couch surfing and actually had to get a job at a burger place. Robert's drinking more than ever. Diana's telling everyone who will listen that I'm the devil himself. Linda's realizing her teacher salary won't cover the lifestyle she's become accustomed to. And Jessica has suddenly become very interested in reconciling with her rich ex-boyfriend. As for me, I'm doing better than ever. The weight of supporting 6 ungrateful adults is off my shoulders, and my business is thriving now that I'm not hemorrhaging money to support their lifestyle. I bought myself an Xbox Series X with the money I used to spend on their car payments. The first time I've bought something just for me in years. It feels good to play a game without guilt, knowing I'm not neglecting anyone's emergency. The divorce is finalizing next month. Thanks to all the documentation and Nathan's help, it's going entirely in my favor. Linda's attempts to claim half my business failed spectacularly. Turns out judges don't look kindly on documented financial abuse, especially when there's evidence of coordination and planning. Life's not perfect. Some mutual friends took their side, but good riddance. The real ones stuck around, and it's never been more clear who I can trust. I've got cameras installed at my place now, not taking any chances. There are no joint accounts left. I separated everything months ago when I first suspected something was wrong. Always trust your gut, folks. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself is let people face the consequences of their own actions. I spent years trying to protect them from reality, and all it got me was betrayal and mockery. Now I'm focused on rebuilding my life on my terms, without 6 leeches draining me dry. I'm not sure what the future holds, but for the first time in 8 years, I'm excited to find out. If there's one lesson I've learned from all this, it's that real family doesn't treat you like an ATM. They treat you with respect. And sometimes, the family you choose is more reliable than the one you marry into.